Looks like we're recording. And again, good evening to everyone. I'm Mike Davila. I'm one of the partners of College Inroads. Happy to be here with you this evening, talking about a part of the process that I certainly did not do when I was in your students' shoes. So we'll be learning from some of the things that I should have done or would have liked to have done had they been available. So we'll dive right in. Let me get over here to the PowerPoint presentation and we'll get started. Okay, so why is this all important anyway? First and foremost, we want students to be super happy with the work that they're going to be doing. We spend a lot of our life, maybe 40 to 70 years of our life working. And you know, it's really important to us that students really have a broad view of what's out there, because many of us as parents had no idea all the different choices that were before us. We just kind of fell into our careers for whatever reason. So it's really nice to begin with the end in mind. Financially, it is in this day and age for sure, because there are a lot of there's a lot of skin in the game for the student. They don't end up ping-ponging around majors. You know, a lot of stress goes with that. Parents, that could be a big deal for us as well, because the longer we spend in college, the more money we're spending. So we want to get in and get out. I mean, the average, well, we'll talk about those averages here in a minute, but most colleges are not 5-year degrees. When we go for a bachelor's degree, it is still a 4-year proposition. So we want to keep it at that if at all possible. And there are, like I mentioned before, a ton of career possibilities out there. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics tracks 867 main career headings, but underneath those main career headings are tons of other jobs. It's estimated tens of thousands of job titles out there for us to go through. So luckily we don't have to sort through all of those, but just to put a fine point in it, there are a lot of choices. And, you know, just to throw myself under the bus, when I was in your student shoes, I thought of 2. That was it. And I only was thinking either prestige or making money. Those were my 2 big drivers. I didn't think a little bit, I don't really think I thought much introspectively about who I was or what would really be a fantastic fit. And that will come in here as we talk through some of these slides. Okay. All right. Let me get to the next slide. Okay. Okay, so parents, how did you guys choose a major or career? Hey, here's some usual suspects. It looked good on TV. I remember when I went to the Naval Academy, a lot of my classmates had just seen Top Gun, the first one, and everyone wanted to be an aviator, so it looked great in the movies. My dad did it. That was me. So I had a legacy in the military, and my dad had done it, and I figured, hey, that if it's good for him, it's good for me as well. And yeah, it was good for some things. It was not so good for others. Okay. I didn't. It happened to me one day as my advisor in college asked me what major I was pursuing, probably in the 2nd year of college. Or my teacher or counselor in high school recommended this one particular career and it just kind of stuck. Some people go to majors fairs on the campus and liked what a professor had to say in a certain department and kind of got lured in. I knew I was bad at math, for example. That was me, definitely. So I just avoided everything that had to do with that particular path. Or I wanted to make the most money possible. That was, you know, and for a lot of students, I'll be quite honest with you, a lot of students, when I ask them, hey, how important is it that we have a high earnings potential? I would say the vast majority of them say, yeah, it's super important in this day and age. So we need to have some tools to help us understand what that actually looks like downrange. It was prestigious to become doctor, lawyer, you know, mechanical engineer, whatever it may be. How about this one? This career was always my passion. I researched it. I did an informational interview. I went to a job shadowing and then an internship. It had great growth potential and it fit my personality. I was good at it as well. Yeah, pretty much that never happened. But that is the canned, corny, you know, we would love to see that in all cases, but that usually doesn't happen when I ask parents. As a matter of fact, when I ask parents, hey, how did you find your career? many times they say, well, I just kind of fell into it, or, I knew somebody. And once in a while I'll have somebody said, yeah, I knew when I was really, really young, I wanted to do this. I went straight down the path and I didn't veer off of that, but that's not really common. Here's some facts. 33% of all undergraduates will actually change their major in college, which again incurs more time in school. 10% of all undergraduates will change it more than 2 times. That is really impactful, because that means we're definitely graduating in 5 or 6 years. And then 41% of all undergraduates will graduate within the 4 years, which means that 60% of them will not finish in 4 years. So that's a lot. That's a lot of folks not finishing on time. So I always, when I'm talking to students about researching schools, I'm talking with them about, hey, you may be doing 15 hours of coursework actually in class in college, but it's like 40 hours in high school. You really need to be able to manage your time and be very focused in studying on your own. That way you can make good grades and graduate on time. So the average student does take 4.5 years or 4.4 years to finish. So maybe if you did the math, that could be $20,000 or more that we overspend on college. So again, I'm overstating this. I'm sure you guys get the picture. If we graduate on time, we can save some money. The shocking statistic that I saw, there was a Gallup poll out that said that 36% of undergraduates would actually go and do something totally different if they could rewind the tape and go back to ground zero. So again, that's way too many in my estimation. So what's out there? What are the winners and losers? And right now, family services, individual services, lots of healthcare and software development are still at the forefront of job growth. Now, here are some of the fastest growing careers, and I'm not sure if you can see that super easily or if that's hard to see, but if you really break it down, you can see again, a lot of healthcare. And then on the left-hand side, I just highlighted a few careers like data science, information security, statistician, things like that. We have to all be thinking and scratching our heads going, okay, what's the impact of artificial intelligence going to be on some of these high-flying hot careers that are on the table right now? So it is estimated that there was an Oxford survey that said within 25 years, half of the jobs that are out there are going to be changed in some radical way by artificial intelligence. So we kind of need to be a little bit nimble here. Just know that these are some impactful areas, but these may change pretty quickly. Okay, and then I know I'm probably speaking to the choir. This little chart talks a little bit about educational attainment and unemployment rate. So I came across this on the BLS website, and I thought it was pretty fascinating because it really does show that over time, getting more education leads to less unemployment risk, except for PhDs. Sorry about that, guys. That could be difficult. So anyway, I'm kind of glad I stopped at the master's myself. So what is a good strategy to employ in a day and age like today? For me, it's looking at 2 main buckets of information. The first is personality type. Now, the idea here is that we want to go to a job that really fits our underlying personal characteristics. I like to think of it as going to a job and really enjoying myself during the day, where I'm not sitting there bored. I'm not sitting there, like in my mind's eye, having, the sound of someone dragging their nails across a chalkboard, not looking at the clock. Like one time my brother called me and said, I just cannot wait until that clock strikes 5 every day. I want to go home, get out of here. I want students to go to a job where they're like, I really fit here. This feels good to me. I don't mind investing myself into this job with balance. So for that, we employ what's called the personality assessment. This is an adaptation of what we call the Myers-Briggs type indicator test. There are 16 personality types as defined by this model. There are no good ones versus bad ones. They all just kind of have lots of bright spots and then also some blind spots as well. This particular assessment really had its roots back in the 1940s. I always get this messed up, but Catherine Briggs and her daughter, Isabel Briggs Myers were the two folks who really spearheaded this. They were disciples of Carl Jung, who was a disciple of Freud. So really bright people. They tested this at length and they launched it in the 40s, and it took off. There were lots and lots of uses. The government, the military, lots of places in industry used this. Many of us as parents have done an MBTI at some point in our life. What's fascinating to me is when students come back from this, they have a kind of a treasure trove of information about themselves, a lot of which they haven't really thought a whole lot about. For whatever reasons that may be, to me, this is super helpful. Where? In college essays. This is super helpful for us to be able to say, hey, college, this is what I represent. Here are my innate characteristics and values. So MBTI is very, very helpful for those things. And yes, it absolutely will spit out a list of particular careers that are really, really good, that are fantastic matches for the personality type. Now, in my particular case, I went to college without having any of this kind of work done. Again, I relied on my dad's guidance, and I thought, hey, it's going to be a lot of fun. I got into the military and quickly realized, wait a second, I can do this job, but it's not one that I absolutely am super passionate about. Now, I could fake it for a period of time. I had to serve 6.5 years on active duty after I graduated from the Naval Academy. I had 2 Navy commendations, 3 Navy achievement medals. I had an appointment to teach at the Naval Academy. I turned down a $50,000 bonus in guaranteed graduate school because I didn't like the job. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And though I really had to look at those things financially, it was not going to be in my cards. I think I would have just lost all kind of motivation had I stayed in. So I left, and I kind of fumbled around like many of us parents do. I, again, had not done a MBTI except for the last week of my military experience. And I was an ESFJ, or ESTJ rather. And that meant, hey, I was molded into a perfect military officer kind of type. But that wasn't really authentic to me, because I did that, after a decade of kind of influence by the military. About 4 years after that, I took another Myers-Briggs type indicator test, and I was an ENFJ, which is personal counselor, coach. It is a mentor type. And that fits what I do in present day like a glove. And I've been doing this job since 2003. So it's something I really, really enjoy. I get up every day. I get excited about working with students. I get excited about building systems and helping people. So that's what we want from the personality test. I just wish I'd done it a lot earlier. Okay, but that's not the only thing out there. One of the things that I found over time is that we also need to be good at and like what we're endeavoring to do as a career, right? It all makes sense. So something that's personally meaningful, something that's in our DNA, but also something we like and that we're good at. And what we like and what we're good at is part of the U Science assessment. Now, U Science, that is really, by comparison to Myers-Briggs type indicator test, it's the new kid on the block. They launched this in 2013, so it's just over a decade old. It may not have a bazillion careers in it, but boy, does it do a fantastic job of helping us see, hey, I want to get a master's degree or a bachelor's degree. I want to earn a certain amount of money, and man, does it match us up really well with our aptitudes and our interests. So if we layer all those things on top of each other, we really should come up with some, small subset of careers that are a great match. So interest, let's dig into that just a little bit. This is, again, embedded within U Science. A guy named John Holland in the 1950s and 60s did a ton of research in marketplaces, in business environments. And he came up with what was called the RIASEC model, which is realistic, artistic, investigative, social, enterprising, and conventional. So those general areas help us define what our interests really are. So for example, someone who's really social, that may, in the top of our mind think, oh, they like to talk to people and like to be around people. That's true, but They are mentors, they're teachers, they're communicators. These people really want to help others. Whereas people who are really investigative, they love problem solving, science, things like that. So you could see how some of these are very different from one another, but all of us have three top variables. And that's how Holland codes get used, is in those top three. And so I've given some examples of those combinations. But those all feed into those graphs that many of you have seen already in the U-Science assessment. What we're really hoping to do is to end up in the upper right-hand corner here, where it's the best fit of both our interests and our aptitudes. And that's all I really wanted to show here, because everything else makes sense that it's not a great fit. If we have low aptitude for the job but are really good at it, it's not going to be a really satisfying career. And those other quadrants are also equally not as good. So I need to ask questions and take action. Once I get into the assessments, which is the personality assessment in U-Science, we need to go a little further just than what it spits out at us. We need to ask ourselves some questions. Hey, what's the job going to pay? What standard of living do I as a student expect to live at when I start in the career, or am 5 or 10 years into the career? So super important. U-Science does a great job of showing us that. Will the job even be around in 10 years? Are there enough openings for me? And again, it's really clearly defined in those web apps. So how can I dig in and learn more about the career before going to college? And for a lot of our students, they're really stressed. They're super, super busy. So these are all like icing on the cake kind of things for most of our students. But there are some ways for us to join professional associations that are attached to certain industries as a student. So that's usually available to us when we get into college. So for example, the American Society of Professional Engineers or Mechanical Engineers. This is a place that college students can join and get to know a whole lot more about what's out there. I've actually had the pleasure of presenting at some of those kinds of organizations, and it's really fascinating to keep on top of the industry by going to some of those meetings. Informational interviewing. I think that's a great thing to set up as a student, because many of us parents have social networks with people who might be in the industry that our students in. Hey, if we do some of that, put it on the resume. Okay, that's the sort of thing that shows colleges that we've taken initiative. We're not just sitting in class, soaking down all the information. We're actually getting active and being proactive in our own future. Job shadowing is the same sort of thing, except for it usually lasts for a few days. Oftentimes, if you are looking at maybe small or mid-sized private liberal arts colleges or professional schools, many times you'll be able to interview with professors in the departments in which case or where we want to study. So I love hearing stories about students who connect with professors to learn more about the industry. And then finally, enrichment activities. For those of you who are juniors, you can go into the files section of the Inroads portal, and there's a section called enrichment activities or summer enrichment. And there's hundreds and hundreds of programs. Some are really expensive, some are free, some are a couple days long, some are whole summers long. These are ways for students to gain more information and more experience in the professional area that they might want to go into. The last one I really want to emphasize here are local internships. And I wish I could say, hey, there's a fantastic database out there to just jump into for all these local internships. The main thing is that students early in the second semester of junior year need to start thinking and sourcing local internships. If we're going to do an internship at a law office, for example, it's important to start scouting that stuff out early and not in May, because it's usually nothing available or it's just too stressful because we have AP exams and everything else. So try to look for those local internships a little bit early. Okay, so how else can I use these insights? So for me, tactical uses, this is how can I use these strengths that come out of the personality assessment in work or at school or socially. U-Science and the personality assessment both have areas that show us how we can use these newfound pieces of knowledge to better our relationships and things like that. So real tactical, small focused areas that we can use this data in. We can also use it strategically. That defining use section, especially with use science, has a listing of usually about 45 descriptive words that are generated just for your student. The multi-paragraph section at the very beginning of the personality assessment does the same thing. So I really enjoy reading those and working with students on those as they start to do the essay process. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So what happens if I just can't decide on a major or a career? Don't panic. It's okay. It happens. Like 20 to 50% of all students go to college without a major. They're undecided. Now, if we are going to major state institutions, yeah, we're going to have to pick something. So the main deal here is that we need to find the right building on campus. That's it. We just need to hit the broad side of the barn. Usually 16, 17, 18-year-olds are not necessarily going to have exactly everything down pat in terms of their future career. So we need to find the right building on campus. So again, look at the diagnostics, look at your gut and intuition. Listen to those. Very important. Is it STEM? Is it creative writing? Is it, something else? Talk to teachers, talk to professors, talk with other students that are in the major. Think about the work that we've already done in high school. Where did I thrive? What was most difficult? And then if you really are stuck, call up the academic advisement office within the division that you're going into and have a discussion with them about future careers, potentials, things of that nature. And there's tons of resources out there online. These will all be available to you after the presentation, but there's all sorts of things that we can get into to point us in various directions. The first one from UC Davis is a quiz-based app. The Keirsey profile deals with what are called temperaments. That's really interesting and fun. 1, 2, 3 test is a really quick and easy, like 15-question assessment. The Path Source is a mobile app. There are 800 careers in Career Explorer. My Next Move goes more in depth into the Holland codes. And then one of my favorites is this last one. That's from Arizona State. It's a picture-based survey. So if you're a person who doesn't want to read a whole bunch of flowery words, it just shows you 2 pictures of something that you might do, and you pick one of them and go through it. It's pretty cool. All right, some takeaways from tonight. There are lots of resources at your disposal. Ask if you have questions or problems or concerns, reach out, okay? There's definitely still time left to discuss and explore careers and majors. My theory is that, you're gonna be, a happier person is gonna be more productive. That productive person is gonna have a better outlook, better energy. They're gonna grow more. They're probably going to have a better quality of life, more balance. They'll probably have better earnings and more control over their path in life, which makes them happier. So it's kind of an upward spiral. So what should we be focusing on now as a junior? I know that some of you may have students that are a bit younger, but hey, if you're in the junior year, creating and revising the student resume. That's super important, gang. A lot of schools will allow us to either upload this into the Common App or into their college portal once we've made the application. If you're having trouble with it, if it looks like the student hasn't gotten very far with it, reach out. Hey, can we get a quick meeting with our consultant to work through some of these things? Or ask your student, hey, how is that coming? By the end of this semester, it really needs to be in good shape. Okay, major and career investigation, absolutely. We talked a lot about that. The college search. I've been in the practice for probably several years now saying, listen, we want to be down to 8 to 10 colleges by the end of the second semester of junior year. That just puts a lot of stress behind you and helps you in the application process immeasurably. Do not worry if you can't visit every single college on your list. There's more time to do that in the senior year. We just need to do the research. So we will help with the college search and provide the initial list. Refine that list as necessary. But it's really important that the student is doing in-depth college research. It's so important that we even dedicate an entire meeting between the consultant and the student to find out how to do that research and to look at the tools that are available. Talk a bit about visitation. There's a saying by Admiral Bill Halsey from World War II: hit hard, hit fast, hit often. I always think about that with college visits. If you start now, just continue consistently doing some campus visits, it's really going to help. Obviously, there's a March SAT coming up. There's an April ACT coming up. So a lot of students are doing test prep. Demonstrating interest in our top choice schools, like getting extra information, going to campus tours, connecting with the admissions reps. That's always helpful. Now is the time, as I'd mentioned before, for summer enrichment activities, planning those out. And then finally finishing the semester really strong, because this is the 6th semester that we're in. This is the last time they're going to see our reported grades before going into the admissions process. Although they will collect final grades, I promise. Sometimes we might be asked for mid-year senior grades, so it's important to finish strong in the senior year too. All right, gang. Last slide. I forgot to put this one in here. SA season is coming. It's winter is coming. SA season is coming. So Saturday, March 1st marks the beginning of what we call SA season at College Inroads. It's going to last all the way until probably January of next year, but we will hold an hour and a half presentation that's just for students on the 1st of March, which is a Saturday at 10:30 Central. Myself, Peter Guzman, Kim, one of our essay reviewers, are going to be in that session talking about how to write essays and pitfalls and all sorts of good stuff. There are also going to be some boot camps along the way, and your student's going to go through a whole series of one-on-one brainstormings through this semester and into the summer. All right, that was a whole bunch of hot air blown at you guys. What questions can I answer for you? Just going to open up the chat. If you'd like to send in a chat, you can do that, or if you want to unmute, you can do that as well. Oh, yeah, sure. Isabel asked about, can you talk more about summer enrichment? Sure. So summer enrichment programs, they've been around probably 20, 30 years now. And what I generally would categorize these as are more like summer camps for STEM, for pre-law students, for people who want to be engineers. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of these programs out there. As I said before, some of them are really brief. They can be a week long. Some of them are hosted by colleges here. Like, for example, UT Austin hosts multiple types of these enrichment programs. And what I would do is I would focus on the ones that are hosted by colleges and presented by the colleges. There are some corporations out there that will do enrichment programs that are, they're held on college campuses, but they're not really done by faculty per se, or they're just kind of dog and pony shows kind of thing. I won't mention names, but if you're getting flyers about these in the mail, you can always run that past us and we can tell you about it. But the main thing here is I want students to get, if they can, some experience with the career field they're looking to go into. And oftentimes it just kind of signals to the college, hey, I'm really serious about learning more about X, Y, and Z. I went to this coding camp. This is what happened. This is what I really enjoyed. And secondly, it helps the students write essays because one of the most common short answer essays in the admissions process revolves around, hey, why are you majoring in this? And if you say, hey, I did all these courses in high school, I had this shadowing, or I did this summer enrichment program, these are the ways I've kind of prepared myself for this future path, that's going to be pretty impressive for the college. So, and again, that's all under the students' files section. It's under summer enrichment programs. And there's a whole spreadsheet that you can sort and, take a look at costs and all that kind of stuff. So thanks for the question, Isabel. Yeah, any others? I think it's just us. I think we had a few people and we lost them. All right, so I will go ahead and wrap up there. I hope you have a fantastic evening. If there's any other questions for us, don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach us on the phone, you could reach out in the portal, and we'll be there to support. So thanks. Have a great night.